What's going on, folks? Happy Tuesday. How's everybody doing today? That is still very loud in my headphones. I had some fun yesterday with Gaea, and it feels like some things are starting to click, which is exciting. I still feel like there's parts of it. I think World Creator has a little edge on it when it comes to like kind of both like the ease of use or like the initial intuitiveness of it, and definitely some like the speed of calculation or feedback times. But there's a couple things in Gaea that got me really excited. One thing in particular, which we're gonna see today. So yeah, I think I'll probably be spending more time in Gaea, not in World Creator, for that one reason. But guys, thank you all for being here. Today we are going to look at, what do we got? I'm still disorganized over here. Today we're gonna look at how I made this, which as a raw rendering looked something like that. I didn't do a ton of post on this one. I'm excited for it, super excited for it. But Michaela, Jay, Javier, Barat, Miha, Milan, Clark, Antonio, good to see you guys here. Very, very good to see you guys here. Yeah, Jay, Gaea seems to be the winner. By World Creator, when you first play with it, it's very quick and easy, I found, which is exciting. But at least for me, I ran into a couple of problems, particularly with how I use them once you get to 3D. That kind of, I didn't end up spending a ton of time after trying it the first time to try and learn it, and my first impressions from Gaea is that I am going to spend more time in it. So let's get the time lapse started. I think I shortened it down to something like 20 some odd minutes, 25 minutes, and I was messing around with it for a while last night. I think we're looking at like a total of like 3.5 to 4 hours of actual working time, but I would pause the recording and like watch a tutorial or read the documentation or any of that, so take the time with a bit of a grain of salt on that one. I was probably sitting at my computer generally looking at Gaea things for like 6 hours. Before I get started though, I meant to mention this right at the beginning. There's a link in the description below for a YouTube channel by a guy named Emmanuel Acho, who's doing this series called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, and just talking about race relations in the US and more about what we can be doing to be doing better given everything going on. I was listening to it for a while last night while I was working. Eye-opening, informative, very positive in the sense that it's looking for how we can be doing better and not just focusing on how we've done wrong. And obviously part of doing better is being more aware of how things have gone wrong. But I highly recommend looking at it. Race and everything going on in America is still very much in the front of my mind. I don't have a lot to add to the conversation that I haven't said already, but I'm still thinking about it and working on it quite a bit. So if you guys have time or interested, I highly recommend those. The one with Matthew McConaughey was the one that I started with. There's only a couple, but they're worth watching. Okay. Let's see. Let's get my chat back to where it needs to be. Clark, yeah, I like the node-based interface. I've always liked node-based interfaces, with the exception of Slate Material Editor, maybe, which I like from time to time, depending on what I'm doing. But let's move this somewhere over here off to the side so that I can see it and see what's going on the screen. I do feel like that doesn't work. There's not enough room over there. Okay, let's get this thing playing. Yeah, it feels like you can kind of control anything you want in Gaea, in a way that I didn't, and you know, it might be unfair saying that about World Creator, because it's very possible that all of the things that I was trying to do, I just didn't spend enough time in learning it. But so this is just kind of me playing with Gaea, and then whenever I have a question, as opposed to just hunting around with it like we were live yesterday, since I wasn't live while doing this, I could look up documentation or try and find a video or something of the sort to explain it. And I do 2 terrains here that are just kind of, the first one is just like a background. I wasn't really trying to make anything specifically. I just kind of wanted to make something that I felt looked cool, that I felt like I had some control over. And then the second one I'm trying to make a specific piece for the foreground, which is obviously not like the natural scale that Gaea's in, and trying to make something that works for it. And again, I don't have like a very specific like concept like drawn out that I'm working towards, but I do have an idea of what I'm going to use it for and a general idea of the aesthetic that I was kind of going for. So yeah, so we'll be looking at this for a little bit. Clark, he is not in a Lincoln, thank God. And he's also like speaking not in code, and you know, not saying things that they're like you feel not cool enough to understand. But yeah, definitely I enjoyed the conversation that he had, and I appreciate what he's doing. Oleg, welcome. Or should I say, all right. Colors. So colors in Gaea, I'm still trying to get a better feel for. Some people are doing some amazing things with them, and I'm very much not yet. And I think that, yeah, well, I spent more time trying to figure out how to get the geometry and trying to get a sense of how other people are using it with combined, like if you want noise everywhere, as opposed to adding noise to the surface, a lot of times it's easier to make a separate plane or surface with noise on it, the type of noise you're looking for, and then add it in certain ways. Some people were saying it in the chat yesterday, using masks and the like to control how things are being blended. That's starting to make sense, masks and blend modes. I feel like if you look at the screen right now, down here we have like all of these purple nodes, which are all like color and masks nodes, but there's so many colors in this thing that like it no longer becomes intuitive, right? And sometimes you have colored cables coming out that aren't the color of the node themselves. I feel like that can be a little bit confusing. But once you get an idea of like kind of how it's thinking, which is to say, it's very much like it's all operations in a very mathematical sense, which I quite like. It works awesome. So now we're already into 3D. We just have the one terrain made so far, and we are and for this one I just exported your standard like displacement maps. I think a displacement map and a diffuse map. And I know I'm not entirely sure what went wrong with displacement here, but we're gonna kind of try and troubleshoot for a little bit. And then at some point, well, now I know what happened. At some point I changed it to alpha instead of to mono without realizing it, and so I'm gonna realize that at some point. Okay, here we go. So now we have some displacement. And this is just an 8K texture, 8K displacement texture on a subdivided plane. And here's where I kind of got frustrated at this phase when I was there with World Creator is where I got frustrated, which is like this looks really good, and World Creator gets similar results more or less with the displacement. The coloring is far superior in Gaea. Those sat maps are incredibly powerful. The colors that you get out of World Creator are tily. It's really set up to set other materials and then just use mix maps to blend them. But here's the problem, right? Is that if you're just using displacement, at least for the way that I like to work, it's very hard to compose a scene because you have to be looking at it through the render, or you can go through and obviously add a displace node, which is what I'm playing with here, or was a second ago and will be again, or you can set up a displace node and then you can go and look at it then, and then you can't really displace after the displace node, at least not with like a standard height field map, because those are supposed to go, black and white is supposed to go directly off the normal from the map, and obviously after you displace it, all of the normals are now facing out. Hopefully that makes sense. Both of them allow you to export meshes, but one of the things that I did not find in World Creator, and again, absolutely could be there, I could totally have missed it, but what we're gonna do in a second, after continuing to mess around with Displace and kind of try to find a workaround and fail to do so, is you can export a mesh, a low-res mesh from from Gaea, and then you can export, as opposed to using the standard height map, you can export what's called a details map, which is you set a target resolution that matches the resolution of the mesh that you export, and then the map that comes from that is designed to work with that articulated mesh. Here's me just trying some other things with moderate to low levels of success. Antonio, so at least we'll see what I did quickly here in a second, and it's probably gonna go by really quickly because of it being a time lapse. But yeah, it was I'm pretty sure it was called normals, not normals, details output, which is specifically designed to export a displacement map for a displaced mesh. Did we already go through it? I think we did. I did go into Photoshop. You can see here, actually we'll pause it, and we'll maybe pause it if it wants to pause. Let's go back and, so you can see right here, this is the details map, and I'm not sure why this one doesn't normalize. I didn't normalize it the second time I used it, so I don't, like I said, I'm still figuring things out. But this is the map, the height map that you get from the details pass. And so you can see it's not designed to displace an entire terrain, it's just designed to displace little bits here and there. And I think the leveling that I did here gave it some strange results, so still working on things. Michaela, so like that's not bad, but then the normal map, you know, it gives you nice surface results, but it doesn't give you actual displaced results, which is what I wanted. And I didn't find a way in World Creator to export the appropriate displacement map. So like here you can see this is the displaced geometry. I think it's 1024 by 1024, so what's that, 2 million polygons or so, and then with an 8K displacement map over top of it, giving not identical but similar results to just the full resolution map, but obviously easier to deal with in the viewport, and you don't have to guess about where things are going to show up when you press render. So yeah, I kind of play with this for a little bit. I don't feel like I have this part fully figured out. I feel like there's probably some optimizations that I can do better, and obviously the colors and all of this is not great. That was not where I was spending my time. And I haven't experimented yet with exporting an even lower res mesh to see the results, because obviously the goal is to have as light of a mesh as possible and then use displacement for all of the detail. But the fact that you can have targeted baking, you have to say what the mesh export's going to be to get the right result, makes me incredibly excited about being able to use this without heavily adjusting my workflow. Like if you work in Unreal, I was watching some videos, this was back with when I was investigating World Creator. You can look at, you know, displaced meshes just like a normal surface, which we don't have the luxury of in most 3D programs anyways, at least not the ones that I work in. Okay, so now we're back into World Creator, or God, I'm gonna keep messing that up all day long. We're back into Gaea and trying to make like a little pinnacle. I knew I was gonna put some kind of character in the foreground looking out over that scene. And I just wanted him to be on some kind of rocks that looked kind of sort of right. One of the tutorials that I kind of watched and listened to worked similar to how this is. They were doing like a eroded cliff face, pretty close up to it, and so I'm kind of stealing a lot of the techniques that he used right here. But the idea is basically using these like primitives, not like mountains, but these like Voronoi shapes and gradients to rough in the shape of the thing that I want to make before starting to add in all of the actual terrainy stuff. World Creator definitely wins there by being able to set the scale and the resolution. It looks like you can do it in Gaea, but it doesn't really want to, and I wasn't confident enough to start messing with it meaningfully just yet. But I'm happy with the result or how it came out. I do wish that it was a little bit snappier. You do spend a lot of time like there's an apply changes button on the right hand side for some of these nodes that me and Patrick completely missed yesterday. But I did find at least that I spend a decent amount of time kind of like pressing apply changes or making a change and kind of waiting for it to reload. It does pay off, I found, to try and get it right at the beginning, because it has to if you go back and fix something at the very beginning, it has to obviously recache and calculate every node, whereas if you're just adding things at the end, it only needs to do that last iteration. So that kind of speeds things up. I'm sure it'll keep getting faster as I get a more streamlined workflow. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. A lot of fun. And you can see I'm going back here to the beginning to kind of rechange some things as I'm trying to figure some things out. Daniel, welcome. Thank you for being here, my friend. Let's see what else we got going on. Oh, that's the other thing. World Creators isn't much better, but the navigation in this is awful. Absolutely awful. Like horrendously awful. I guess you can just deal with it and just kind of try and leave the camera in the same place. But I do hope that they make it a little bit more controllable to actually like move around in this thing. It's nuts. It's nuts how not controllable it is. And I couldn't find a setting to fix it. So here you can see like another thing like where I'm taking just basically a gradient slope and then adjusting it to move kind of the whole shape of the thing around. I found that to be really helpful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I found that's useful. Obviously, I'm still learning it. But one of those three nodes that I just popped out there, one of them was the mesher node, which you can set, I set it to 1024. Next time I use it, I'm going to see if I can drop down to 512, which is still a pretty dense mesh. And then there's the detail nodes, and you have to input into the detail nodes what that target resolution is. And then this is just, I feel like I don't really have anything to add on the color side of things, as I don't really understand it yet. I've basically just been like, let's try to make something that kind of looks sort of like okay and interesting, which I feel like this kind of matches in my head what I had going on, or has the vibe of what I was looking for. It feels like rocks, not a mountain range, which is what I was going for. And then I kind of called it. The nice thing is that like these are actually usable. So the only thing that I added to the render in this whole thing was that old mesh that I sculpted in ZBrush a long time ago for the dude sitting on his with his kind of head down. Everything else, I didn't use any Megascan stuff. I didn't use any other textures other than their textures, and was pretty happy with how it turned out. Especially being that close to the camera. Now, granted, it's an 8K map, or a couple 8K maps in the piece that's right next to the camera, but it still came out pretty cool. So that's what the mesh looks like, just at 1024 without any displacement on it, and then we go in and add in some of their maps. Normal map, details map, diffuse map. And then I do some like tweaking of it, obviously, but I didn't have to use anything else to get a result that I was happy with. I think that that's saying something. Here, trying to figure out what happened. Answer, forgot to reset X form before putting displacement on it. There we go. And then from here to the end, I'm just kind of dicking around making the image itself. Excuse me. You can see some of like the weird stuff in the bottom right here. Or you could for a moment, and I think that comes from when I leveled the map. I have the feeling I messed some things up there, but I don't know that. I kind of was working with that like straightforward mindset of let's see if, you know, having just opened this program earlier today, if we can get to an end result that I'm happy with, which I did. But I don't have a good enough grip to say like, oh, if I had done this, that would have fixed it. Or maybe that's just an issue that I need to find a solution to. I don't know. I really don't know. Here you can see I'm just kind of tweaking the displacement. The other thing that leads me to think I did something wrong is that I had to use a negative displacement value to get it to look right. Don't know why. On the big terrain, not on the little one where I didn't level the map. So something happened there. Could be, probably is something user related. But hey, that's learning. Kind of wish I'd spent a little more time on the silhouette, like adjusting the silhouette of this stone character person. The silhouette doesn't really read as a person, which is a mistake, but not a sculpting exercise. You can see I kind of help it there, and then I undo it. Oh well. And then I paint it back in at the very end. So this is actually just with an F-Storm Sun, which is not usually how I work. And then I go and I test a few skies, and then I go back to the sun, and then I go back to skies at the very, very end of photoshopping. I don't know if I was just staring at it too long or I was getting tired. But if you want to see me work inefficiently, that's what our next, we got like 7 minutes more video, and you're going to see it get a little bit inefficient here. We're going to test out a few skies. For some reason that I can't explain entirely, we go back to the sun, and then I Photoshop the whole thing, and then I don't like what I made. So I go back and re-render it and adjust it again. Yeah, what can you do? You win some, you lose some. You keep moving forward regardless. Yeah, so I don't know if I do anything worth specifically commenting on. This, while not being a particularly straightforward little experience in post, testing a couple of skies, kind of comparing them back and forth, is a pretty standard part of my workflow. Like, I liked the kind of overall mood that I happened on with the F-Storm Sun and Sky, so I am picking skies that I think I can get a similar look to, which is heavily from the color of the atmosphere and the tone mapping that I'm using over top of this. So, like, ultimately we're lighting it with a normal sun and, you know, a normal blue sky or cloudy blue sky. And it's all color mapping and atmosphere that's giving us those colors. But yeah, I didn't do a lot of experimenting on like trying to find different ones because I liked this. Though I do sometimes do that. Fixing shortcuts. I don't know, something with all the shortcuts I made last week, the video that I made last week about shortcutting things, something got changed. And like, 2 buttons, shortcuts are now not working for some reason. Or Photoshop may have changed something again with the latest update. Who knows? Who knows? Jay, this is not a, well, I mean, technically, yes, the final image is F-Storm Sun plus HDRI combo, but it's that because right now the image we're looking at is from the F-Storm Sun and Sky. And then when I get to the end and I compare it to some of the other test renders, I'm like, oh, I like the test renders better. So then I went back and re-rendered out a HDRI without the F-Storm Sun, and then kind of comped that image over top at the very end. So it's not using them in the same time in the same render, but it is technically using a pass that's from F-Storm Sun and Sky, which ultimately I ended up not liking that much, and then one of Peter Guthrie's version 5 skies, which I do like a lot. And it looks like, judging by this video, I have 12 days to purchase this, which I'm going to do. I just haven't because it hasn't made me. I'm still liking this software. There's lots of stuff you can do, and I actually use it for some like sunny effects here, which, you know, may have overdone it a little bit, but I dig it. David, each now and again Photoshop does like completely delete my shortcuts. If you save them and then export them to yourself, which I covered in that video, it's not in the keyboard edit keyboard shortcuts spot. It's right next to it. I can't remember what it is. It's like export presets or presets manager or something like that. In the edit menu, you can export all of your any saved keyboard shortcuts, and then when Photoshop decides to delete them all, you can just re-import them at the same place, and it'll save you a ton of time and a ton of frustration, because every time I have to manually go in and reset up keyboard shortcuts, I get like the major ones done, but the little ones that I don't use a lot but I've been using for a long time, it's not until I try and, you know, Control-Shift-N is add noise for me. And it's like, oh, I forgot to add that one. And then you got to go add that one. And then you do Control-Shift-G. It's like, oh, now I need to go back and change Gaussian blur. And it's like a day or a week of continually going back and adding one at a time. So I would export them all to yourself so that when Photoshop does decide to delete them for who knows what reason, it's just a couple clicks away from fixing it. David, no worries. I mean, like, these are like an hour. It's like 5 hours a week of this. There's a lot of stuff to sort through. No worries, bud. But yeah, I do quickly go over at some point in the Photoshop efficiency video how to export your keyboard shortcuts, which is also helpful if you ever to work on somebody else's computer. I'm pretty useless in Photoshop if you give me default keyboard shortcuts, because I've moved all of them to the left side of my keyboard so that my left hand doesn't move that much. And yeah, you put me in normal Photoshop and I like stopped being able to use it. So let's pause it real quick there, and Jay, I'll show you what I was meaning. I think, let's see. So this is where the sun and sky, and obviously I photoshopped in the sky. at least, you know, some texture into the clouds. This is where this one ended. I kind of liked it, but then I went back and looked at, which one is the one this was like, you can see this is super noisy. This was like at one of the test renders from when I was doing skies, and I liked it a lot better. So this was like the finished Photoshop version. Kind of got pretty desaturated, and then this was like a test. I'm like, I like the test better than like the thing I just spent 20 minutes photoshopping. So I go back in, render that guy out in full res. I think at 4K on two 2080 Ti's, this thing took like 7 or 8 minutes to render, something like that, with atmosphere, depth of field, obviously a lot of displacement. And then, so everything that we see from here onward, I believe, is just on top of the finished rendering. I added like some saturation back into it, darkened the whole thing back down, and then yeah, now it's a hodgepodge image of two different lighting setups, painted together in certain spots and avoided in others. Bharat, welcome. Thank you for coming and hanging out, bud. I have been playing a little bit with Blender recently. I wouldn't say that I use Blender. Oh, and that's the end of that guy. I wouldn't say that I necessarily use Blender, but where did Photoshop go? There we go. In the sense that I only know like a little bit. Oh. Switching between screens. Photoshop hates it. I wouldn't say that I use Blender in the sense of I don't really understand it yet, but I've been playing with it with sculpting, and I played with it with Eevee the other day, and I'll continue to experiment with it. It's incredibly promising. 2.8 is awesome. I don't have a lot to say intelligently about it, except for every time I've gone into it in the past couple of months and played with it, I've been like, oh damn, it's nuts that that's still free and, you know, gonna stay free, and everything else just keeps getting more expensive. So gears are turning, but no commitments yet. No commitments yet. Blender's on fire though, as far as I'm concerned. So I will be continuing to play with it. I have no desire to actually really truly learn ZBrush, but I do. This was an old sculpt, and this is kind of how I like to put characters in, just like mushy, weird things, and then you put like a stone or rock or some kind of displacement texture on it. And I like just being able to quickly pose and sculpt out a gesture. And the last one I did was in Blender, and is it as good as ZBrush? No. Am I that good at ZBrush? Definitely not. And it's free, and it's not endlessly frustrating like ZBrush is, at least for me, because I don't know it. So yeah, there'll be more Blender, I think, probably in the future. That's my prediction. But guys, that's all I got for you today. Super excited about Gaea. I will be continuing to play with it. I expect you guys will be seeing some more of it. And hopefully I'll be, right now it's still kind of a very much like, let's see what this does. Oh no, that's not the thing. And it's a lot of experimentation. I wouldn't say that I have like a smooth understanding of everything going on, but you know, more than we did 24 hours ago when Patrick and I first sat down with it. So good 24 hours, I would say. What are we doing tomorrow? I'm not sure just yet. Not sure. Procreate is coming this week, but I'm not sure if it'll be tomorrow. My gut is that it's going to be Thursday, which means something else is going to be tomorrow. And what that's going to be, I don't know. Could be Procreate. Who knows? Jay, thank you very much, my man. Appreciate it. Alright, guys. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for sitting down and joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there's something of value in that for you. And there'll be more in the future with Gaea. And so have a great rest of your Tuesday. I feel like they should just get rid of the days of the week at this point. They're all the same. If you never leave your house, really, they never change. And if you can't do anything special on a Friday or Saturday, what's really the point of even remembering that it's there? But guys, I hope you're all well. I hope you're having you know, a good, fun, safe time in your quarantines. Hopefully some of your quarantines are starting to loosen up, and hopefully that goes smoothly for you guys. Until tomorrow, thank you for being here. I very much appreciate it. Oh, and for the people that always hit like and stuff on this, thank you for that too. I really appreciate that. And I'm told that it helps people find these videos, which I think is a good thing too. So thank you. Okay, awkward time. Guys, be well, be kind to one another. I love you all. Cheers. First, and now it's awkward time. Oh wait, we have this full screen on. You guys want to see? Here's where the awkward things are. So like, I think you guys can see this right now. So there's the big giant end stream button. That's what gets the first boop. Boop. And then you got to press the "Are you sure" one. That's the second one. Is that the beep? I don't know what the order is I do them. Guys, thank you. See you soon. Beep.